The moment of physical death initiates the Chikhai Bardo, the first stage of the intermediate state. Consciousness begins its withdrawal as the 5 gross elements dissolve sequentially: earth into water, water into fire, fire into air, and air into space. This dissolution is experienced internally as a loss of bodily control, followed by clarity, heat, and finally, the cessation of breath. When the final breath stops, the mind experiences the primary clear light of death, the fundamental, unconditioned nature of reality. This is the ultimate opportunity for liberation, requiring the deceased to recognize this luminosity as their own inherent nature, free from dualistic thought. If recognition fails, the consciousness immediately slips into the subsequent Bardo stages. The Bardo Thodol, often translated as liberation through hearing in the intermediate state, belongs to the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism. It was originally composed by Padmasambhava in the 8th century and later concealed as a treasure text, known as a terma. The text was rediscovered and transcribed in the 14th century by the Tertone Karma Lingpa. Its purpose is to be read aloud to the deceased person, guiding their consciousness through the complex and often terrifying post-mortem experiences. The instructions are specifically tailored for practitioners who have trained in Mahamudra or Dzogchen, but the principles apply universally to the process of consciousness transfer, or Phowa. Failure to recognize the primary clear light leads to the manifestation of the secondary clear light, which is less intense and more fleeting. At this point, the consciousness separates entirely from the physical form and assumes the subtle mental body, known as the Yidlus. This body possesses unimpeded movement and clairvoyant abilities, allowing it to perceive the living world but remain unseen by it. The mental body is characterized by intense emotional volatility, driven by past karmic imprints. It experiences confusion and disorientation, often attempting to re-enter the deceased physical body for up to 3.5 days before fully accepting the reality of death. This transition marks the beginning of the Chönyid Bardo, the Bardo of experiencing reality.
The Chönyid Bardo lasts for 14 days, characterized by intense visionary experiences that are entirely projections of the deceased's own mind and accumulated karma. The first 7 days feature the appearance of the peaceful deities, starting with Vairochana, the central Dhyani Buddha, appearing on the first day. Each subsequent day introduces another Dhyani Buddha, such as Akshobhya, Ratnasambhava, Amitabha, and Amoghasiddhi, accompanied by their consorts and bodhisattvas. These deities manifest in brilliant, overwhelming colors and light. The instruction is to recognize these figures not as external gods, but as the pure, inherent qualities of one's own consciousness. Recognition leads to immediate liberation into the corresponding Buddha field. If the deceased fails to recognize the peaceful deities, the visions intensify dramatically during the 2nd week of the Chönyid Bardo. The peaceful deities transform into the wrathful deities, known as Herukas, manifesting as terrifying, blood-drinking figures surrounded by flames and consuming light. These manifestations are designed to shock the consciousness into recognition. The Herukas appear in union with their consorts, symbolizing the indivisibility of wisdom and compassion. The intense fear generated by these visions is the primary obstacle to liberation. The Bardo Thodol instructs the deceased to embrace the terror, recognizing the wrathful forms as the natural, energetic display of their own mind, devoid of inherent existence. Failure to recognize these projections solidifies the karmic momentum toward rebirth. Following the Chönyid Bardo, the consciousness enters the Sidpa Bardo, the Bardo of seeking rebirth. The mental body now experiences intense longing for a stable physical form. During this stage, the deceased faces the judgment of Yama, the Lord of Death. This judgment is not external. It is the instantaneous reflection of all past actions in the Karmic Mirror. Positive deeds appear as white pebbles, negative deeds as black pebbles. The mental body experiences the suffering of the lower realms and the bliss of the higher realms simultaneously, driven by the dominant karmic imprint. The consciousness is now highly susceptible to external influences and is drawn irresistibly toward the location of its next birth.
The final phase of the Sidpa Bardo involves the appearance of the 6 gates of rebirth, corresponding to the 6 realms of existence: gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. The consciousness is drawn toward the realm matching its strongest karmic tendency. The Bardo Thodol provides specific techniques to consciously reject undesirable rebirths, known as closing the womb door. This involves visualizing the prospective parents as deities or transforming the sexual act of conception into a wrathful, repulsive image. Another technique involves meditating on the clear light or visualizing oneself as an enlightened being, thereby forcing a favorable rebirth or achieving liberation through conscious choice. If liberation is not achieved, the goal shifts to securing a precious human rebirth, which offers the best opportunity for future practice. The Bardo Thodol instructs the consciousness to choose the human realm gate, characterized by scenes of peaceful family life. If the consciousness is drawn to a lower realm, specific meditations are prescribed. For example, if drawn to the animal realm, the consciousness should visualize the animals as Avalokiteshvara. If drawn to the hell realm, the consciousness should visualize the heat and cold as the cooling presence of the Buddha Vairochana. These visualizations counteract the karmic pull, ensuring the consciousness enters the womb with awareness and intention, maintaining continuity of practice into the next life. The effectiveness of the Bardo Thodol relies heavily on the living guide, typically a lama or a close practitioner, reading the text aloud to the deceased. The consciousness remains receptive to sound for up to 49 days after death. The guide's voice acts as an anchor, reminding the mental body of the true nature of the visions and the opportunity for liberation. The text emphasizes that the Bardo experiences are instantaneous and fluid, requiring constant, precise instruction. The guidance must be delivered with unwavering confidence and compassion, ensuring the deceased hears the instructions clearly, even if they appear unresponsive. This auditory guidance is the final lifeline for navigating the perilous intermediate state.